Alright, so this is going to be a video talking about Area Study 2 and some of the discussions about how it's meant to work together with Area Study 1, but throughout our knowledge of the good life in general. So let's first and foremost think back, because Area Study 1 and 2 are connected implicitly. We are meant to take our understanding of the good life, its conception, what relates to it, and our thinkers, and apply that to what Area Study 2 is asking us about the contemporary life that we lead. 21st century life amongst technology. So, as we've talked about here, Area Study 2 is meant to work in conjunction with your knowledge about philosophers as well as some of the study design questions of Area Study 1. To remind you of what these were, part of the Good Life study design for Area Study 1 includes the questions we're about to go over in a moment. And the big part of them is that they are essentially working to consider the things that impact upon our understanding and conception of the good life. So what our now Area Study 2 work and our understanding of our philosophers will do will blend these questions and what they're asking us and the ways that they're talking about the good life with technology. So considering this first one, what, if anything, does an understanding of human nature tell us about the good life when we consider conceptions of the good life of, like, who we are as individuals, our nature, our purpose, what we're inclined to do and to not do, what choices we are naturally, meant to be drawn towards, and where this nature will help or hinder us in living a good life is what we are really thinking about. So human nature will tell us something about ourselves and tell us something about what we consider the good life and whether we're naturally able to or inclined towards that, or if we need to quell or challenge our human nature, fight against it in the ways that, especially Socrates or Aristotle will talk about, habitual behavior or self-discipline and restraint in the Socrates viewpoint that tells us we need to shy away from what is natural and instead engage in virtuous actions for them. But when we add technology into all this, our human nature will inform a lot of our usage and especially like potential abuse of these technologies. What we get out of them, whether we strive to reject them or endorse them for our own gain. The questions about, if anything, does an understanding of human nature tell us about the good life? It's questioning whether generally and also in context of now our discussions of technology and if our human nature will hinder us or make it harder for us to live the life that we are trying to lead. When we turn our attention then to this slide, looking at what does the good life have to do with being morally good, again, we're considering it not only with the conception of our thinkers in mind. Like, morally good is ambiguous and it relies on a need to endorse and see value in being morally good as like a qualifier of living a good life. If we think acting virtuously, as Aristotle does, then we would acknowledge the explicit requirement to be moral, to live well, and in turn we have technology that facilitates that and aids us in our moral pursuits. Like, even better, if we think morality has nothing to do with the good life, like Nietzsche, and condemn its ideas as ones of comfort seeking and pushing down to the low, to this, other common denominator, like the low level of equality can't challenge you to rise above. So his condemnation of morality also tells us that, in his view, he would largely say that being morally good has nothing to do with the good life. And technology, which could or may impose moral ideas like equality or good from this traditionally moral or morality viewpoint, Nietzsche would have to reject them and consider them as adding to this degradation of man. So questions of, what does the good life have to do with being morally good? You're not necessarily just answering that, but you're using it as like a talking point where you can then bring in, say, these ideas of technology. The next question then asks us, what is the nature of happiness and what is its role in the good life? So we think about the fact that happiness is seen in many ways and endorsed differently by each of our thinkers. If we consider it necessary to be happy, we have to admit that there are numerous ways in which happiness can be sought, attained easier, or even like endorsed through technology. But when judging how we attain this happiness and question the depth and value of it as something to be sought out, what kind of requirement it has and what kind of happiness is being attained brings issue to an account endorsing any or, all means of attaining happiness, and broad ideas of happiness as valuable in contemporary accounts of it, and the usage of technology to facilitate and make it more attainable. So what we'll notice as we go through these and as we consider the next one in just a second is this idea that our discussions of the good life and a good life in relation to contemporary 21st century technology has a lot to do with still our conceptions that we've created throughout this area study one. So these questions and how we're talking about each different philosopher tells you the nuance that you can bring to the subject and the nuance that your discussions in area study 2 work will have, where you'll be able to be creative, bring in your ideas and show your understanding and ability to talk about and see these in reference. Considering this last question from Area Study 1 as well, what is the relationship between the good life for an individual and from broader society? Again, you pick apart the elements. So a relationship requirement of an individual to broader society for one to live a good life, that's circumstantial. Depending on who you're endorsing, what view or conception you have of the good life, it's not going to be the same. And there's not going to be a relegated or like really specific or obligated relationship that you must have with others if you opt into one conception of the good life over another. So, one may want endorsement of community, like Socrates and Aristotle, aiming one's own improvement and good life to influence and encourage a good life and community for others, giving that relationship of like give and take, of growth and development, of change, and me getting better and you getting better. The aim of these pursuits and these activities, like we talk about, Socrates, his expertise, are for the good, not only of the individual, but for broader society. When we think then about, say, Callicles, it may be that we only see a relationship to one's perceived equals. We consider, the strong and the better and the superior in his views, and he only cares about endorsing his superior brethren over conventional groups, judging the conventional norms and the rules that they impose as something that he shouldn't have to buy into. Like, we're indoctrinated, and that kind of wording already gives a lot of connotations that relationship isn't required, and if anything, there is negativity in that element. So why would it be required or needed for one to live a good life? When we consider Nietzsche then, obviously his duty and the relationship that he cares about for you as an individual living a good life doesn't need or require us to, relate to, acknowledge, engage in, be a part of broader society. And even when we take it the next step of looking at Woolf, she's talking more about like merely metaphorical requirements of relation to soothe our ache for connection and society for others to see and to value our activities. So when considering how technology could allow greater scope to foster this relationship, definitely, it affects society beyond just where one lives. If one has broader reach and does objectively valuable tasks, like is their life better? Is it more meaningful? Adding more to their own good life and the good life of others? Or is this idea of like technology something that can take away our relationship with broader society because we're more aware of the disadvantages, the negativity, the things that are happening and going on with that society that make us, take a step back and not want to be a part of it? Or even, you as an individual rising above and trying to get what you can and leaving behind what we've now, seen as a struggling or difficult situation for society. What these then culminate in is us looking at the major ideas we want to get across today, which is talking about that concept of technology and the good life. So both its conceptions, its debates, the elements within it that are our 21st century influences on our ability to live a good life. When we consider our day-to-day, we consider the way that we live our lives, technology is so inherent in the way that we go about our day-to-day. There is no question that you have, touched or used multiple pieces of technology every single day, and today as well. So Area Study 2 takes us on an investigation into really our own experiences of the good life through the lens of the 21st century in which we live, and its influences, impact, and technology's effect on our ability to live a good life. So when we think about our own lives, a lot of the considerations of what it makes it meaningful or good or worthwhile stem from how we experience and pass the time, and what we do in those day-to-day moments, what they contribute to, or how they affect our ability to live and our experience of that life. When we think about what influences that most, it's the things that we utilize, the things we implement, the source and resources that we use to create and to facilitate that life. So in our context, being technology. When we consider what can be meant by this term technology, the difficulty of giving a one and done, all encompassing answer shows us the breadth of the topic, and that anything that is produced can be seen in some way as a type of technology. So when we're using this term and we're talking about it, it needs to be really overt what is really meant by technology. So a little bit of a definition for you is that technology can be interpreted broadly to refer to current or even potential technologies related to the kind of lives we wish to lead or see as valuable. Anything that is produced with a certain amount of skill and either does not exist in nature or is being reapplied in some technological way. So this may include, for example, bioenhancements, other medical technologies, robotics, information and communication technologies, social media, and entertainment technology. But even this is just like a narrow range of examples, and it's beneficial to think about it in a much broader context. So when considering technology, and especially its place in living and living well, we also need to consider the difference between the actual methods of how we use it, the systems themselves related in and to the development of this technology. So the designers, the producers, the people who are putting the code into this online tech, or building the pieces and the parts and the wiring and all the different elements. But as well as that, the users, us, and the people who very easily could abuse that technology. So our discussions and our questions about technology need both a purpose and development standpoint and a use/abuse standpoint. So people using the technology, those designing and implementing the technology. So when we end up considering technology as a tool for the good life, the consideration becomes one of the instrumental value of technology, with the focus being on whether this tool that we now have at our disposal is one that can benefit or hinder our seeking of the good life and help us attain what is actually intrinsically valuable. Because the question really is, does technology have intrinsic value? And we know that the answer is no. We know that it's not something sought out of its own sake. In the ways that we consider technology, it only has instrumental value. It is not pursued for its own sake. It's invented, it's designed, built, produced, and used for the sake of something else. So when we consider this area study, all the prompts largely will come down to some element of this relationship between the instrumental value of technology and the intrinsic value of human life, and particularly that of a good life. And whether that relationship is a beneficial or a harmful one. Is it going to help us? Is technology going to facilitate our good life? Is it going to harm us? Is technology going to hinder our ability to live this good life, live well. Considering again those initial questions from Area Study 1, application is a huge element of how you will need to apply and think about Area Study 2. When applying these technologies, as said, it can't be merely superficial. We need to think and consider how and why we, may value their benefits in certain ways, how and why we might condemn their disadvantages in other ways. When we judge technology, we need to understand we are also judging what the best kind of life is. As by making a claim about technology and its effects, we implicitly are saying what our view of the best kind of life is. If we condemn something that challenges this element of one's life, that element mustn't be a part of a good life. So part of deciding the value of technology is deciding what the best kind of life is. Hence, all of our work in Area Study 1 conceiving and discussing what a good life actually is. So while it feels undeniable that being happy and healthy is significant to leading a good life, how we achieve those things is also important. And these concepts and debates outline ways in which technology crosses into this idea of living a good life. So your job in Area Study 2 and in the exam is to be able to adapt to and utilize different source materials to discuss the relationship between technology and the good life. And you're going to be doing this largely through application of these concepts that we'll discuss, the contemporary discussions, the debates that tell us and discuss in some way the relationship between technology and the good life. So today's focus and the stuff that we're going to go on from here is about introducing these concepts and debates, which you'll be researching and planning ideas around as part of your holiday homework. Something to note as well is to bear in mind as you research these concepts, you also want to keep in mind and consider what our key thinkers would think. So these links between technology and the good life, how would Socrates see them? How would Callicles? How would Aristotle? And how would Nietzsche? And how would Woolf? And their ideas, obviously a lot of them wouldn't have been around or here for some of these technologies, but you're looking at the view that they have given you and if that would align with how this technology is utilized or what element it aids with and those kinds of ideas. Area Study 2 then introduces us to 6 new concepts. I know, how are there more? But in doing so, it gives you a vocabulary for talking about technology in relation to our lives, good or not. And thinking about each, they have meaning both individually and philosophically to do with both technology and just general day-to-day conventional use. So we want to bridge that divide and use them as a means of considering the philosophy of the good life in reference to technology and its influence and impact. Looking then, we have our 6 and we're going to go through them in a little bit of detail, but to give you a bit of a standpoint of what each of them are, we'll do this a little bit of a quick rundown. So when we look at progress in technology and philosophy refers to continuous improvement, advancement, and development of human knowledge, capabilities, and societal systems. It often implies moving towards a better state or future. So we look at this idea of progress as contributing to growth and betterment of us and our species through the use and development of technology. We look at reality in technology and philosophy, referring to a state of existence or a sum of all that is real and perceivable. It further encompasses question about what is real and how we perceive and understand it, judging whether technology enhances or facilitates our understanding of reality. Does it diminish? Does it take away? Does it hide or delude our understanding of reality? That's what these questions will come up. Control then in technology and philosophy refers to the ability to influence or manage events, systems or objects. It can relate to issues of choice, things like praise and blame. If you have control or decision-making capabilities, then you're held to account. It also talks about problems of feeling in charge or able to change one's destiny and one's life. We consider whether technology facilitates that control, whether it takes away that control. Dependency is one that will be interesting because of the largely negative associations or connotations of this phrase. Like, when you think about dependency, it's largely towards addiction, and the associations there aren't super positive. So thinking about it as a required or necessary concept for the good life feels a little bit hard. But some of this looks at, almost relieving our dependency on others and allowing for reliance and beneficial things for one's own well-being and functioning. But largely in our negative associations, the way that we think about it is, reliance on external factors, on systems and substances for one's well-being or functioning. Freedom then talks about the idea of like freedom in technology and philosophy, referring to the capacity to act or choose without constraint, coercion, or interference, leading to concerns over the level of ability we as individuals have in our day-to-day lives. So considering technology and its uses, does it allow us to have greater freedoms? Are we less reliant or dependent on other factors as a result of using technology? Or has this in some way threatened that freedom? Has it taken away some element of it? Has it made it worse for us? The last one is creativity. And creativity is going to look at this idea of our capacity for, novel, valuable ideas, solutions, our, artistic and general expression of self. And philosophically, it touches on aesthetics and our potential and ideas, again, of self and artistic expression. So when we think, does technology make us more or less creative? Is there things about it that will take away that creativity? Will it allow for greater creativity? And does that then facilitate an easier means of living a good and valuable life? Thinking about these, we're going to look at them in specific detail and how they both can facilitate our good life and facilitate, progress, as well as how technology can diminish or hinder our ability to live well, take away from that progress, and so on. So with it being the first one, we'll start with progress. But there's something that I want to draw your attention to, because you will notice this at the top of each of these kind of specific slides talking about each of the concepts. This question, I find, is a really good guide to talking about and considering our concepts, and we'll use these in each one and subbed into the question, changing, progress to the next one as we go through. And what it does is considers not only is this concept actually necessary or required to live a good life, but whether technology then would facilitate or diminish each concept, giving us important qualifiers to how we evaluate their relevance and whether in practice technology works with them or not. So looking at progress in a little bit more detail and to what extent progress is necessary to the good life, and does technology facilitate or diminish our progress? So progress, again, can be seen as a fundamental human aspiration. This is closely tied to the concept of the good life. In many philosophical traditions, the good life is often associated with self-improvement, the pursuit of knowledge, the betterment of society. And progress in this context represents that journey towards releasing and realizing these ideas. It encompasses advancements in various dimensions of human existence, including ethical, intellectual, social, and material aspects. When we think about progress, it's getting better. It's getting closer to that goal and development and that end and that aim that we have. So technology then plays a pivotal role in facilitating this progress. We talk so much about technology as a new age advancement and something that we're, shifting towards. We have, the Industrial Revolution as this pinnacle time where technology boomed and it created significant changes in our society. So when we look today in the 21st century level of technology, it is huge, and it encompasses a lot of the way that we talk about progress. So it can expand the boundaries of human knowledge, it can enhance our abilities, it can improve our quality of life. technological innovations have historically contributed to the development of medicines, of infrastructure, communication, countless other domains, and thereby elevating our standard of living and enabling us to live more fulfilling lives. So technology, for example, has ensured free access to information. It provides opportunities for self-improvement and personal growth. All these things accounting for some element of facilitating progress. To note though, the relationship between technology and progress isn't without complexities, and there are potential pitfalls. There's ways that it's going to hinder us. There's ways that, misused, it may not be an unmitigated good. And it's essential to acknowledge this, that technology can both facilitate and hinder our progress, depending on its application, so how we utilize it. We can see then that we can always give both positives and negatives depending on how and in what ways these different technologies are utilized, to what extent they're embedded or contributing to our lives, and whether that is a beneficial or facilitating one or a negative and diminishing one. So considering first our facilitating side, you could talk about technology as providing tools for research, education, information dissemination, enabling us to understand the world better, expanding that and enhancing our knowledge. You can think about it improving quality of life. Advancements in healthcare, transportation, sanitation have extended our lifespan and increased our well-being. Increased access. Technology can democratize opportunities, making education, employment, and resources more accessible to a broader range of people. All these things progressing us towards what feels like a better, a fair, a good society. When we think about diminishing elements of progress, you can think about isolation. So over-reliance on technology can lead to social isolation, can hinder personal growth when genuine human connection are sacrificed for virtual ones. There's the general ethical concerns related. So some technological innovations raise ethical dilemmas, such as concerns about privacy, the use of artificial intelligence, the environmental consequences. So taking away from, things that we have developed and changed, we've essentially embedded a code of morality through the legal systems that we have, and creating new technology gives rise to new dilemmas and new concerns and new issues. Inequality then is the third kind of diminishing way that this can go about, where you look at technological progress as exacerbating social or socioeconomic disparities, if not distributed equitably. You look at marginalized or disadvantaged groups and they're left out of these technological developments. Not everybody has the money to endorse or utilize or seek out these different technologies. So progress without, constraints and without some level of equity and, processes around it won't necessarily facilitate the best life, especially for those in, marginalized or disadvantaged groups. What I want you to consider though is that largely, any of these tweaked could be switched to become issues or problems, to have some form of idea where, maybe if we look at enhanced knowledge in this way, it's not going to work in the way that we're considering. It's not going to be a facilitation or a benefit. It's going to be a hindrance. So, you could tweak and twist and append all of these. Enhanced knowledge is worthwhile if that knowledge is worthwhile, if we have the capability and capacity to understand what knowledge is beneficial and useful and would be relevant. We can gain enhanced knowledge into horrific or even incorrect knowledge, into programs or beliefs that buying into could be wrong or debilitating. Technology provides access to countless dangerous and damaging resources. Chat rooms, marketplaces, databases about topics that enhanced knowledge of doesn't equate to positives or benefits or even desired progress. Think human trafficking, think black markets on the dark web, and much worse. This idea of just having, even increased access as well to things doesn't automatically assume that increased access is a positive one or one that is beneficial for, a greater number of people. Having enhanced knowledge not necessarily by definition a great or beneficial thing for someone to live a good life. It's how that knowledge is brought about, or what kind of knowledge or what kind of access is given. So all of these, again, can be tweaked and changed and argued. And that's what the point of having these kind of broad topics that can be discussed in multiple ways allows us to, build and bend our discussions. Reality then is our second concept. So reality is a foundational concept in philosophy encompassing the objective world and our subjective experience of it. It's often considered essential to the good life as our understanding of reality shapes our beliefs, values, and actions. So we consider the fact that your life and how you live it is your reality. So you judging it as good or not, and trying to facilitate this living of a good life and wanting to live well shows a reflection of your reality. So here, it's not just limited to the physical world, but also our mental, emotional, and existential dimensions. So when we look at the pursuit of a good life, an appreciation for reality is significant for several reasons. So looking at moral and ethical grounding, our understanding of reality forms the basis for ethical and moral decisions. A shared perception of reality is crucial for the functioning of societies and the establishment of moral frameworks. If people see things in the same way and understand things in the same way, then making judgments about those things is way easier and is facilitated in a much quicker way. The second idea is about personal growth, so accepting and engaging with reality, including our strengths and limitations, is essential for personal growth and development. And for these ideas like, self-fulfillment, facing the challenges and opportunities of the real world fosters growth and resilience. Acknowledging reality and what is actually going on, bypassing and trying to be strong in the face of, potentially challenging moments allows that growth and resilience. In terms then of authenticity and fulfillment as well, authenticity is the sense of living in accordance with one's true self and values. This relies on a genuine understanding of reality. You can't really connect and live in accordance with your true self if you are deluded about what is actually going on. So, a good life often involves living authentically. Living authentically involves understanding reality. Finally then is meaning and purpose. So understanding one's place in the world and the nature of reality can provide a sense of meaning and purpose, which are, as we talked about a lot, is this central component to the good life. We look at Aristotle, and purpose and end and the ultimate aim of human actions is considered one of the most fundamental elements of his argument, and having meaningfulness is really Susan Wolf's whole idea. So both of which are really important here. So then when we think about facilitating reality and diminishing reality, we could think about, enhanced understanding. Technology, particularly in fields like science and medicine, has expanded our understanding of the physical and natural world, bringing us closer to certain aspects of reality. Communication-wise, digital technologies enable us to have global communication, allowing individuals to connect with diverse perspectives and experiences, enriching their understanding of reality. Even things like, virtual reality, while it stimulates alternative realities, it can also be a tool for education, for empathy building, for artistic expression, and potentially deepening our connection to various aspects of reality. You can use VR to go to places you haven't been before and see them, and then, it gives you a greater awareness of what is out there and what the world is like, because it's not just, fake or changed or developed, it's just reimagined and regurgitated in the way that we see it already. Looking at the diminished side then, this idea of distraction is huge. The excessive use of technology, and especially social media or entertainment technology, can lead to detachment from immediate physical reality and impair our ability to be fully present. You think so much about people who are addicted to different types of technology, who have, their whole life and understanding of the world and what things are is based in technology. Think about fake news and the ideas of Facebook news where your parents or grandparents will talk about, oh, I saw this thing today, and it's like that has no merit or warrant, and it's not true at all. So their idea and understanding of reality is just completely false. We look as well at filter bubbles, so algorithms on digital platforms that can create like echo chambers. It limits exposure to diverse viewpoints and narrows our perception of reality. All that we hear back to us is this echo of an idea that platform or that chat room or that thing that you're in is endorsing. So any diverse viewpoints, any of those against it, won't be there, and they won't be heard, and you won't understand that they truly are a vocal majority at times and still unheard in certain views and areas. Augmented reality is then our third one in diminishing. So while AR enhances the real world with digital overlays, it may blur the line between a real and virtual, potentially leading to a disconnection from unmediated reality. If we take this program and technology to be able to change and alter what we're seeing in front of us, is there questions then that we won't be able to distinguish what is augmented and what is real? Like we did with progress, you can do the same thing with tweaking some of these to twist and upend them. Considering the abuse of technology by individuals, things like catfishing, even general phishing programs like scammers, they all use technology to communicate globally if we look at communication. And the idea is to connect with diverse perspectives, but with malicious and sinister intentions. Does communicating lies, spreading misinformation, fake news, again, propaganda, does this facilitate our reality? Is technology not making it easier to do these malicious and sinister versions of communication? So maybe a reality of the actual and horrible nature of individuals, but could this understanding of reality as well contribute to a good life? Like if we devoted our lives to fighting these injustices, to take down these types of individuals, maybe if we enjoy it, if it was seen to improve us, to make us grow in some way, if it was seen as a morally virtuous path, if it was designed to raise our community and aim towards the good, but it could also just be devoid of meaning or good or value. It could make us depressed and fearful and distrusting. It could make us push away and reject others, judging them to be the same liars or horrible individuals who have taken something away from us. So enhanced understanding or awareness or even ability to communicate, is that actually beneficial? Does it actually facilitate some version of reality that we want to have, that will make us easier or more able to live a good life? Do we, even have to be aware of all elements of reality to truly live well and not, be delusional about the place and what's happening? Does an understanding of only our immediate reality diminish our true level of good that we can contain? Would being knowledgeable about the experiences of others help us live well or better? All of these are ideas that you can then come up with and talk about and discuss in reference to reality as this broader concept. Control then is our next concept. So control in this context refers to the ability to influence and manage one's life's circumstances, choices, and actions. What we are able to influence and affect over, that which we cannot. What we then strive for is this idea of control, of which we are able to focus on, prepare for, put effort into, make changes to with our action. Through technology, there are things which can give us more or less control over this phenomena in the world, over ourselves and over what we feel as well. So it's often considered essential, this idea of control, to the good life for several reasons. First, and overtly, is personal autonomy. Like control over one's choices and actions is fundamental and hugely important to feeling as though we are living a good life and it is our life. So a good life often involves the ability to make decisions that align with our values and our goals. It also considers the idea of like moral responsibility. Control's tied to moral and ethical responsibility. Individuals are typically held accountable for actions that they have control over, which forms the basis for moral judgments. When we think as well about pursuits of goals, the capacity to exert control enables individuals to pursue their aspirations and achieve their goals, contributing to a sense of fulfillment and purpose. When we think as well about freedom from external coercion, control can also entail freedom from, being underneath one's thumb, having undue influence over ourselves, people forcing us and not allowing us to lead the lives that we'd like. So freedom and allowance for individuals to lead a life that reflects their authentic self, again, facilitates and feels like it's essential to our life being one that we would consider good. Control, again, has its own nuances and technicalities. Does having control of our lives matter? Is it even possible at that? If it isn't, can we even live well if we wanted? Or is there some issues in deliberate natures, in feelings of say and change and development? Can someone truly improve or grow without control of themselves? Does someone need to acknowledge and truly feel in control to be in control? Does being in control even matter? Or is it more about the idea of embodying and exhibiting control of oneself and their actions and choices, not of their life in context or in relation to others? So we can think again about the facilitating elements, the diminishing elements. So we can think information and knowledge as technology providing access again to vast amounts of information and knowledge, empowering individuals to make informed decisions and exert control over their lives. We can think about automation technologies, which streamline tasks and processes, giving us more time and control over how we allocate those resources, because time really is one. If we take away the processes and the hard tasks and things that we don't want to do, you have more control over what you are spending your time doing. Also is the communication and connectivity element. Digital communication tools enable individuals to connect, collaborate, and advocate for their interests, enhancing their ability to exert influence and control in various spheres. So it's not just, your direct and in-person control over aspects. You can now have greater influence and control in various and, broader reaching atmospheres. On the other side of the spectrum, for our diminishing control, it's a connection here to dependency. Again, over-reliance on technology can lead to a sense of dependency, where individuals may feel controlled by devices, algorithms, or systems, rather than being in control of them. Things start to show up on your feed all the time, or, you can't get away from certain programs or ideas or ads or different, influences and things like that, and all of it can make you feel in less control because of the amount of technology and devices you're utilizing. Surveillance and privacy is a huge one to do with technology, because there's so much ubiquitous and universal surveillance and data collection done by a lot of big tech companies and even the government utilizing these technology, and all of it can erode our individual sense of control over our personal information and privacy, raising concerns about autonomy. Even recently they did an update on Google Chrome where they turned off all of your privacy settings and essentially selling your data to ad companies. Didn't tell anyone about it, and it's just implicit in there, and you have to go in and turn it off yourself. And this idea of data collection and surveillance is so normed at this point that there was no question about that and question that they did that. It just happened and nobody said anything about it. And it's just, oh, you have to figure out for yourself, or your ad data and what you've been looking at is being sold to a company so that they can target your ads better. This also has relevance to the algorithmic bias. So algorithms are a huge thing used in technology to show you certain things, to try and influence you in certain ways, make you buy stuff, make you see certain things, make you think about certain things. So it can introduce bias as well and discrimination, potentially diminishing individuals' control over opportunities and resources. So all of this brings in this idea of, like, again, how control could be facilitated, how control could be taken away by the usage of technology. Dependency then, as our next concept, looks at this idea of the extent to which individuals rely on external factors, systems, or resources for their well-being, fulfillment, or functioning. Technology is the thing that's providing all of these external tools. So these resources, as much as they're facilitating some form or, meant to enhance well-being, fulfillment, functioning, they're depended upon by us as individuals and society to do these things. And a big part of this is that it is multifaceted. There's going to be some element of, like, positive dependency, but there's negative dimensions, and its role in the good life is one that is a bit contentious and questioned. When we look at interdependence, dependency is an inherent aspect of human existence. We are interdependent beings. We rely on social networks, on institutions, community groups, resources to meet our physical, emotional, and social needs. When we think about collaboration and community, healthy dependency on others fosters collaboration, community, and mutual support necessary for the good life. Interacting with and relying on others can enhance our sense of belonging and connection. Think about Woolf and her ideas of, wanting your life to be seen as valuable from a standpoint outside of yourself. This dependency on community and collaboration is based in that social nature that she's saying that we have. When we think specialization and progress, dependency can also enable specialization and progress. So in a complex society, individuals depend on the expertise and contributions of others to advance in various domains, leading to innovation and development. You as an individual don't have all the information. You have people that you rely on. You depend on experts and those that understand or know the thing that you are trying to do to help you advance, to help you get better and grow and develop and, complete a task. Think about, people who do their taxes, and it's like, you aren't an accountant, you don't know how to do them, so you go to someone and you rely and depend on their expertise to do something that you could get in trouble for not doing. So different ways in which we consider dependency as something that actually does have positive ideas. On the other hand, there's this idea of autonomy and self-sufficiency as an issue point for dependency. So on the other hand, excessive or involuntary dependency can impede individual autonomy and self-sufficiency, potentially diminishing the quality of life. So again, we'll look at the ways in which these are facilitated and diminished. While it's important, before we even get into that, is this idea of the necessity. Because is it necessary to be dependent or to have dependency to live a good life? While the others feel more obvious that, there's some element of good potential or benefit within them, dependency doesn't feel like it necessarily has that. As much as, positive dependency technology can enhance the good life for facilitating positive forms of dependency, such as access to education, so dependency on educators to teach you, healthcare, doctors, nurses, these people who you depend on for those valuable access to and means of keeping you alive, as well as social connections. So, for example, online learning platforms provide educational opportunities that empower individuals to acquire new skills, knowledge, fostering personal growth and well-being. Think about the fact that we had, Teams when we went into lockdown. We use this technology to facilitate your education because there was some need, and that access to it created and benefited your situation. When we think then about negative dependency, conversely, technology can contribute to negative forms of dependency when individuals become over-reliant on digital tools or platforms. So, for instance, social media addiction or excessive screen time can hinder personal relationships and well-being. So consider a little bit more overtly, like our facilitating dependency, convenience, efficiency, providing, these things in our daily life, reducing the need for certain manual tasks, increasing our reliance on automated system. It also works about connectedness, so digital technologies enabling us to stay connected and dependent on global networks, fostering a sense of interconnectedness and interdependentness. but you can have a negative impact while still facilitating dependency. So again, in this over-reliance element, so, it's offering and generating more dependency on technology, it's facilitating dependency, but it's doing so at a level that creates pitfalls. Individuals becoming less self-sufficient, incapable of doing basic tasks without relying on technology to intervene. When we think about diminishing dependency, this self-sufficiency concept comes up. It can empower individuals with tools and resources, however, that reduce dependency on others for certain tasks, such as home automation or telemedicine. When we think about access to information, technology provides access to information and resources that can reduce dependencies on intermediaries and empower individuals to make informed decisions. So this one is kind of interesting, where facilitating dependency is like almost the bad part, where diminishing dependency is the good one. Next up is our creativity concept, so defined as a tendency to generate or recognize ideas, alternatives, or possibilities that may be useful in solving problems, communicating with others, and entertaining ourselves and others. Creativity drives progress in every human endeavor, from the arts to the sciences, business, technology. Creativity is the vehicle of self-expression and part of what makes us who we are. Creativity then is a fundamental aspect of human existence, and its importance to the good life can be understood in a variety of ways. So again, self-expression. Creativity allows individuals to express their thoughts, emotions, and experiences in unique and meaningful ways, contributing to a sense of self-fulfillment and authenticity, both of which we see as endorsed and, seen positively in the good life. In terms of innovation and progress, creativity drives innovation, leading to advancements in various domains, including, again, science, art, tech, and culture. These innovations often enhance our quality of life. When we think about problem solving, creativity is instrumental in problem solving and adaptation to new challenges. It enables individuals to find novel solutions to complex issues and improves personal and collective well-being. So allowing us to adapt and change and develop, again, that's linking in Nietzsche's ideas. And the aesthetic appreciation, the ability to create and appreciate art, literature, music, and other forms of cultural expression enriches our lives and contributes to a sense of beauty and meaning. You can think about, some of Woolf's ideas about, reasons of love, her example of writing a piece of philosophy. It's not something, outside and better than ourselves, but there's some inherent value in the task, in trying to pursue and create and express some idea or understanding about a concept. So the aesthetic appreciation there. So looking at ways it can facilitate creativity, technology could provide tools and platforms, a wide range of these, from graphic design software to digital music production software, which enable individuals to explore and express their creativity. The means of accessibility of internet and digital media have made creative works and resources, again, more accessible to global audiences, fostering collaboration and exposure for artists and creators. It also helps with data and analytics ideas. Technology can provide insights and data that inform creative decision-making, helping creators define and tailor their work to specific audiences. But when we consider the negativities or the ways that technology can diminish creativity, we can look at overstimulation and distraction as the first point, considering the constant exposure, all those memes about people not being able to listen to anything without Subway Surfers playing right next to the screen. It's like, oh, no, I can't pay attention. And they cut screens and they talk about this idea of the level of overstimulation, distraction being so potentially, diminishing of our ability to think, and especially think creatively, because so much of that requires some element of focus. When we think about algorithmic influence here is similar, where it talks about, really certain types of arts or types of creative expression as seen more positively, and when we think about algorithms on social media platforms and streaming services lead to like a homogenized content consumption. So it's like, everybody goes on the fad of the day, and whatever's viral at the time, there'll be like 1,000 videos about the exact same thing, and it's like you watch so many and it's like nothing out of it. So it limits exposure to diverse creative works. Like, you see on TikTok when there's like, the dance videos or whatever, and for ages they go crazy and it's like the only thing that you'll see on TikTok, and you miss out on a lot of these other diverse or creative works, and potentially stifling those that then aren't doing well because the algorithm doesn't favor their, output and their posts. When we look at loss of tangibility, some argue that digital technology has contributed to a loss of some of the more tangible and like visceral aspects of creativity, as many traditional art forms are digitized, so taking away from a lot of those experiences and the way in which we see art as a touchable and tangible and thing that we can experience. This one I don't know if I like very much, because I think some forms of having more access to more art styles means that you would facilitate creativity, because you have more things to play off of and muse to use, that kind of stuff. But yeah. So I'm going on to our freedom concept. So having freedom embodies the potential ability to freely choose an alternative, an opportunity to think and act following ideas and desires, and not because of an internal or external coercion. Comes from having freedom. The free embody this ability to choose the means, or even to or not to act. So freedom's a foundational concept, again, in philosophy, closely intertwined with the notion of the good life, and its importance can be understood as follows. So autonomy-wise, freedom, similar to control, allows individuals to make choices and decisions to reflect their own values, beliefs, desires, contributing to a sense of personal autonomy. Moral responsibility, again, freedom is essential for moral and ethical responsibility, as individuals are typically held accountable for actions they have freely chosen. Human flourishing, so freedom can foster human flourishing by enabling individuals to pursue their goals, develop their talents, and lead lives that align with their aspirations, as well as social and political participation. So freedom's crucial for democratic societies. The way that we live as individuals here in Australia is having that ability to engage in political processes, to express dissent, to influence the direction of their communities and their nations. We have the freedom to do that, and it facilitates us living a life more aligned with our values and beliefs, and thus a better one. Looking then at ways that it's facilitated, you think about, again, access to information. Technology provides access to information and knowledge, empowering us to make informed choices and express your freedom of thought and expression. Communication, advocacy, digital platforms enable individuals to connect, collaborate, and advocate for their interests, amplifying their voices and influence. Think about the way that a lot of protests and different, community experiences have been enabled through different platforms in which people can connect, talk about their ideas, come up with solutions, come up with ways to vocalize their thoughts and feelings, as well as digital privacy tools is another facilitating factor. Technology offers tools and methods to protect digital privacy, giving individuals greater control over their personal information. When we look then at diminishing factors, surveillance and control comes up again, like pervasive surveillance and data collection erodes individual privacy and freedom, potentially leading to a sense of constant surveillance and even like self-censorship, feeling as though you aren't free to say what you want to say because that you're being watched, and that there's people and things that could vilify you or target you because of the beliefs that you're expressing. Again, with algorithmic influence, so they can filter and shape the information individuals encounter, potentially limiting our exposure to diverse perspectives and constraining then our freedom of thought. So similar ideas to control and to creativity, that filtering of information creates differences and has effects on your own freedoms and control and creativity. Dependency again comes up here with over-reliance of technology can leading to a sense of dependency where individuals may feel controlled by devices, algorithms, or systems rather than being in control of them, and again, thus making them lack freedom and feel as though there is some level of, pressure and forced constraints. We then turn our attention from these concepts onto three key specific contemporary debates that we'll consider. So instead of looking broad strokes how technology may impact or influence on our ability to live well, we're going to look at three specific types of technology. And although they are still broad, it's giving more of a specific guidance of how these different means of talking about technology can be linked to our living of the good life. So the first of which is human enhancement, and we'll obviously talk about it in more detail, but talking these technologies, what we mean by human enhancement technologies is anything that has the potential to kind of significantly impact our pursuit of the good life, both positively and negative. When we think about them on the positive side, it's about extending lifespan, enhancing health, empowering individuals to achieve their goals, and contributing to personal fulfillment. But on the other hand, it's exacerbation of social inequalities, it's ethical dilemmas, it's threats to personal identity, and the risk of dependency of technology when buying into human enhancement. Social media will be our second one. We'll look at, without a doubt, social media reshapes the ways in which human beings interact with one another and initiate and maintain relationships. So by mediating our self-presentation to the world, social media also reshapes how we think about our own identities and the identities of others. How we understand the good life is increasingly molded by what we see in our news feeds, by the tweets and the posts that we follow. All of these things contribute to, what we see as that thing of value and the pursuit that feels worthwhile, and by extension, meaning and the good life. Our third debate is artificial intelligence. So looking at this broad strokes as any kind of artificial computer system that shows some form of intelligence behavior, so complex behavior conducive to reaching some form of goals. These artificial intelligence have raised fundamental moral and general questions about what to do with these systems, what the systems themselves should do, what risks they involve, and how we can control these. So our usage and again potential abuses of artificial technology tell us and influence whether it could be conducive to a good life or not. So we'll go into a bit more detail in each of these and look at ways in which we can see both a positive and a negative usage of technology for each. A key term that we will talk about in terms of the philosophical movement behind human enhancement is something called transhumanism. So when we're looking at our human enhancement debate, this is something that is really largely talked about. And in past, exams, they've had questions and prompts, stimulus material based on transhumanism. So this is essentially just the intellectual movement that both affirms the desirability of radically enhancing human intellect and physiology through the use of technology. And it studies the potential ramifications, the dangers, the ethical consequences of such technologies. And, a class of philosophers of life that seek continuation and acceleration of the evolution of intelligent life beyond its currently human form and human limitations by means of science and technology, guided by life-promoting principles and practices. So a lot of key figures here, even if you look at that last name, Nick Bostrom, he was one of a past exams was a excerpt from one of his texts talking about transhumanism and discussions of human enhancement as replacing the issue points in human beings' lives. So this element of endorsing all and radical enhancement of humans through the usage of these technologies is a transhumanist account. when we consider then potential benefits of human enhancement technology, we can think about, the ways we talked about before, the medical field, health, longevity. Healthcare can extend human lifespans and overall health by reducing suffering, enabling longer, healthier lives. These technologies can contribute to a more fulfilling and meaningful existence. It can be benefited by enhanced abilities, our cognitive and physical enhancements provided by HETs or human enhancement techs can empower individuals to achieve their goals more effectively, whether in healthcare, careers, or personal pursuits. So again, leading to a greater sense of accomplishment, fulfillment. And the third benefit being ideas of quality of life. Enhancements that address disabilities or chronic conditions can significantly improve an individual's quality of life. For example, like prosthetic limbs and sensory implants, they're already currently used human enhancement technology. They can restore, some level of lost abilities and enhance overall well-being. Why not take that to a further extreme? Why not utilize, newer and more current human enhancement technologies? Because, in the same way that we utilize prosthetic limbs, sensory implants, there's things that will enable us to raise the quality of life of individuals. The fourth talks about personal growth, so the facilitation of personal growth and self-actualization by removing certain limitations. So an example could be like improving cognition. It can aid in self-reflection, pursuit of deeper understanding and wisdom by increasing one's intelligence, which, these potentials of human enhancement technologies talk about. It makes sense that that would enable some greater level of development and growth. Think about what Nietzsche would say about that. If you just get it handed to you, is it the same as actual independent in development and growth? You have to question it. When we think next about potential hindrances, this comes under the ideas of social inequality. So the availability of HETs may exacerbate existing inequalities, as only those with the financial means to access these technologies could benefit. Like, this creates disparities in health, in cognition, in physical abilities. Like, if only certain individuals could afford these technologies, does that mean that those left behind are going to, undermine a lot of that principle of fairness and justice in society? We think also about identity and authenticity. So some arguing that certain enhancements may threaten individual identity and authenticity. For example, cosmetic genetic modifications could lead to a superficial emphasis on appearance, potentially undermining deeper aspects of personal identity and authenticity. The third thinks about dependency and risk. So individuals who rely heavily on enhancement technology may become dependent on them, leading to a sense of vulnerability if these technologies fail or become inaccessible. This, again, dependency could diminish self-reliance and resilience. And the fourth being loss of human connection. So as technology advances, there's a concern that humans might increasingly rely on digital or virtual connections, potentially diminishing face-to-face social interactions and meaningful relationships. Like, this could impact the quality of life by reducing the depth and richness of human connections. If you're all enhanced, how human are you anymore? And is that connection that we, potentially previously relied on, is that not the same as the digital or virtual ones? Have they been adapted in different ways? Does that lose something that the good life requires? Those are the questions it's asking. Moving back to our second debate now, so social media. The key idea here is there inevitably raises questions about the relationship between social media and the good life. Even as early as the 80s and 90s, philosophers and social theorists were starting to examine how digitally mediated social interaction affected our perception of reality, ourselves and others. So Albert Borgman, a philosopher specializing in philosophy of technology, raised concerns that social media may diminish the fullness and complexity of our identities and make us resentful of the hardness of reality when compared to the glamour of virtuality. Others caution against the problem of online friendships replacing face-to-face interaction. So core ideas within this concept that will, in general have their own questions. When we look then at the ideas of our potential benefits, social media talks about the benefit of connection and community, enhancing the good life by facilitating these connections with our friends, families, and communities, regardless of geographical barriers. You know, think about if you ever FaceTime someone when they're overseas and talking to your family, even, you know, calling them on the phone, posting a message on Facebook, you know, DMing someone, all these different ways in which you can access and maintain relationships and share experiences, get emotional support. All of this fosters that sense of belonging and interconnectedness, which can be endorsed as beneficial to the good life. Second talks about information and awareness, so providing access to a vast amount of information and diverse perspectives, empowering individuals to make informed decisions, engaging in informed civic participation. This knowledge can contribute to personal growth and societal progress. The expression and creativity then, as our third point, you know, utilizes this and talks about personal growth even more in terms of self-expression, creativity, sharing one's talents, ideas, experiences with a global audience. You know, even bleeds into Wolf's idea of wanting affirmations essentially from other people, seeing your pursuits and activities as valued by others independently of yourself, and, you know, acknowledgement that the pursuits that you are pursuing are worthwhile. So this expression and creativity is facilitated by technologies like this that allow for that self-expression on wider platforms. So this can be personally fulfilling, this can contribute to cultural richness of society as well. The fourth benefit is the advocacy and social change, so playing a role in social and political movements on social media, enabling advocacy for social justice, for human rights, and environmental causes. They offer a platform for marginalized voices, potentially leading to positive societal change. Like, as much as, you know, it's happening much more overseas, thinking even about the actors' strike, like there's so much usage and even specific shying away from social media as a way of enabling this advocacy for the writers that they want and for the pay that they want. So using these platforms and using their social media and standing to play a role in these movements. The second part is our hindrances. So we look at social isolation. Paradoxically, while social medias can connect people across distances, they can also lead to social isolation as individuals substitute online interactions for real life ones, potentially diminishing the depth and quality of face-to-face ones. A big part of this as well is like, you know, think about how COVID affected you and how being remote and the isolation from others, you know, it's not just about because you're depending on online interactions, it's now feelings of inability to have face-to-face interactions, more shyness or social awkwardness, and elements like that can also come into this hindrance elements. The second talks about filter bubbles and polarization. So again, algorithms giving you like a filter of information where individuals are exposed primarily to information and opinions that align with their existing beliefs. Like, you know, this is called confirmation bias, and the idea of like only really seeing things that will reinforce what is existing and hindering your critical thinking, contributing to polarization of society, you know, putting groups against one another by, you know, influencing what they're seeing and what they're thinking. The third talks about mental health concerns. Excessive use of SMTs has been linked to mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, and loneliness. The constant comparison to curated online personas and the fear of missing out can negatively impact self-esteem and overall well-being. So a lot of these factors are something that I'm sure you've talked a lot about in, you know, other subjects as well, talking about how social media can influence and impact, you know, things like body image, you know, self-image as well, the way that we have esteem issues, or again, as they're saying here, anxiety, depression, loneliness as a result of this usage and potential, you know, isolation as a result of social media. Fourth talks about privacy and surveillance. So the pervasive collection of personal data on social media, again, raises concerns about privacy and surveillance. The loss of privacy can affect individuals' sense of autonomy and freedom, potentially diminishing the good life. So, you know, thinking about all of the images that you've ever put on social media. Like there's so many like backdoors of people being able to like save those photos or be able to take screenshots, and like, you know, even ideas about like Snapchat's meant to be so that any of the things you send over are safe and they'll disappear or whatever, and if they save them it will tell you, and if they screenshot it will tell you, but then they still have it. Like that doesn't mean that you won't not lose that photo or have someone take it or have issues with it being out there when you don't want it to be. The same then applies for things like online harassment and misinformation, especially. So fostering online harassment, cyberbullying, and the spread of misinformation, which can harm individuals in society, eroding trust and well-being. Like the, you know, veil that you're behind a piece of technology allows people to do things they largely wouldn't otherwise. You know, fostering this harassment, cyberbullying, it's much more pervasive than, you know, regular bullying now as a result of this, you know, protection that one feels from being behind the screen and less accountability to their actions. All right. Our last debate then brings us back to artificial intelligence. As a key idea of this is talking about the impact on the good life. So we think about artificial intelligence as a subject of deep philosophical considerations. Like you may have remembered us doing it last year and us doing it even when we began our units with Descartes, Smart, and Nagel, talking about artificial intelligence as a contemporary debate there. So while AI tech offers the potential to enhance efficiency, personalization, well-being in various domains, they also again raise important ethical, social, and economic challenges that diminish the good life for individuals and society as a whole. Philosophical reflection and ethical deliberation are essential in guiding the development and responsible use of AI's artificial intelligent technologies to ensure that they align with our values and aspirations for a better or more meaningful human existence. What this leads into is our potential benefits. So ways in which it could be something that helps our good life is to do with the efficiency and convenience it offers. So streamlining tasks, you know, think about automated systems, intelligent assistants, smart devices. All of these things free up so much time for more meaningful tasks and take away those annoying little moments of having to do some random thing. Personalization, enabling for products, services, tailoring the experiences to the individual's preferences and the needs. This personalization can lead to greater satisfaction and sense of fulfillment in various domains, from online shopping to healthcare. So thinking about the different ways in which, you know, there's all those like programs and services that can provide like medication things to you online. Like, you know, I know they do heaps of ones for like contraceptive and things like that, where you know, get a prescription from a doctor online and then they send you it each month, and it's, you know, convenience and personalized to you. Healthcare and medicine then, as a nice segue, talking about the potential to revolutionize healthcare by improving diagnostics as well. So using AI to diagnose different individuals, also about coming up with treatment plans and patient care plans. So enhanced medical technologies and predictive analytics can contribute to better health outcomes and a higher quality of life. Education and learning is our fourth one. So can lead or can aid the good life by facilitating personalized and accessible education. Adapted learning platforms and intelligent tutors can help individuals acquire knowledge and skills more effectively, fostering personal growth and development. So I'll actually give you a AI platform that I recommend using when you're doing your study and readings of a lot of articles about these three debates, called, I think it's like Diffit Me, and it differentiates different readings to different age levels. So like, say you could take like a university level document, put it into the system and say spit out a 5th grade version of this, and it will do so to an extent that they would actually be able to understand the content. Obviously it is dulled down, but, you know, it's giving a personalized and accessible element to that resource, which again helps personal growth, development, acquiring knowledge and skills. The last one here is environmental sustainability. So AITs can be employed to address pressing global challenges such as climate change and resource management, optimizing energy consumption, enhancing environmental monitoring, and supporting sustainable practices, contributing to a better future for humanity. So again, all of these talk about, like, usages in a way that is beneficial, and how their technology is utilized in ways that can create a better or easier means of living a good life. What this takes us to then is our potential hindrances. So privacy concerns again will come up, talking about AI collecting and analyzing vast amounts of personal data. Privacy breaches, data misuse, surveillance concerns can erode individuals' autonomy and sense of security, diminishing their quality of life. When we look at automation and job displacement, the automation of tasks through AI can lead to job displacements and economic insecurity for many individuals, taking away jobs that can be programmed through an AI, meaning that, lots of those less skilled job positions, which are usually for, more disadvantaged or lower groups that haven't had the access to, higher training, it's going to disrupt livelihoods. It's going to diminish economic well-being for individuals, and it's going to contribute to social inequalities. When we look at general ethical dilemmas, the use of AITs in decision-making processes is actually really difficult to assess if there was going to be any bias or issues there. So using it in, say, criminal justice or autonomous vehicles, both of these raise ethical dilemmas. Like, in terms of a autonomous vehicle, like, are they going to break a road rule to save a life? Like, what kind of trade-offs does it have, and does it utilize so that these kind of decisions can be made for an autonomous vehicle? So questions about accountability, about fairness, about bias in these systems can challenge the principles of justice and individual rights. There also looks at this loss of human connection as the fourth point here. So over-reliance on AI-driven communication tools and virtual assistants may lead to a loss of genuine human connection and interpersonal relationships, diminishing social and emotional well-being. And with the final one being depersonalization. So looking at the point where we consider in some contexts the automation and depersonalization of services through AITs can lead to a sense of alienation and dehumanization, as individuals may feel treated as mere data points rather than unique individuals. Where we go from here is thinking about this concept of how all these debates come together, because really what we are going to do now is have to research and collate and look at examples of how these debates and how these concepts contribute to our understanding of good life. So where this leaves us, I know this is a lot of information, and you likely will have to watch this or pause and write stuff and do as you do, but what your task is going to be, you will see that there's these two different sources here that you can use for information. The Key Debates TGL one will have lots of suggested sources for you to research and look up information. This is an outline of all the stuff that we've essentially talked about today. What you'll be completing is a holiday homework which will ask you to do different tasks relating to each of the different debates and discuss and think about their relevance to our discussions of the good life. There's also this additional idea that during your study for the exams and revising and thinking about and preparing for that essay that you will need to be flexible for, there's this example tracker, which is another one of those shared documents for you. So we'll research and collate a couple of examples of technologies and the way of talking about each in and within the different debates as an element of your exam study. So all these resources and a lot more will be available for you. So I will leave you there for today. It has been very long, but I hope you've gotten something out of this. And we will come back and talk about it in more detail next time. So hope you enjoy it. Bye.